So, as all floundering content creators say, I've tried recording this podcast many times previously. But first I need to welcome you to the My Rules Better podcast. I am Tom Barbalet. And I have two topics which I have recorded on historically and never actually gotten out. So I'm going to try and attack these two topics in one specific recording, and let us hope that I can actually complete this with some level of success. The first is an extraordinary thought that caught me a few weeks ago, which has manifested itself into, I don't know what one would call them. I guess they're KR multi-cases. So I have 4 small KR multi-cases now filled with 15mm World War II. Predominantly German, accidentally, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, it seems like in terms of the distressed army market for 15mm World War II, German, in terms of well-painted, German has come up trumps here. So, yes, 3/4 German, 1/4 British American. And in this thought, in this idea, it really came to me through watching a video of a fellow called Lindy Beige, who I watch quite a bit now, because he's got quite a big catalog of back content. He's now singing Beatles songs rather mournfully. I kind of feel like, I guess he must have a Patreon. I probably should frequent his Patreon and actually start up a conversation with a gentleman. But anyway, he uses 15mm quite a bit in his demonstration videos. I thought to myself, look, I do have some 15mm Panzers. In fact, I've got a Games Workshop figure case full of German armour that I've never painted for Flames of War, which was, I'd like to say a frivolous purchase, but perhaps a series of frivolous purchases when I lived in Las Vegas, of all places. So they are really old, unpainted German armour. Going to have to fix that, I think, at some stage. In any case, the whole space of 15mm World War II is something that I haven't really wrapped my... obviously I knew there was a game called Flames of War that was doing particularly well. But the notion of writing a rule system for that space, for, 3, 4, 5 figures on a base all moving in a particular direction, the notion of kind of command and control groupthink through that, is not an area of my thinking that I've gotten into. Now, as you well know, as you have heard probably in many prior podcast recordings, I have half a dozen projects that I need to complete before I get to writing a 15mm World War II rule set. Let's just put that out there. Let's just say that. However, as a line in the sand of coming up sometime in the future, 15mm World War II, what a space to be in terms of just a way of thinking about rule systems. And obviously, I embody a lot of ongoing. I had tried to change my reading habits, but I'm still reading a disproportionate amount of World War II history. It's just so calming to me, for want of a better term. So, yes. In fact, I've actually tried reading a 1950s World War II history of a tank commander called, I think, Tanks Attack. What's the guy's name? John Foley, perhaps? And I've lost the book, which is a very COVID-19 circumstance. I started reading the book outside, then I brought it inside, started reading it inside, and then somewhere through this time, I think my wife cleaned something up, and the book disappeared. In any case, I'm still reading a lot of World War II history. I've got the new history of the SS coming to me in paper form. But yes, just ongoing reading space. So my cognitive reverence for the time frame, for the weapons, for the people, for the psychologies, for the leadership, all these things are really in place with regards to World War II. It's more important for me to kind of capture the essence of something that is not being done currently. And that is where it gets particularly interesting. I have a series of rules that are partially written associated with a variety of different kind of counter-strategy ideas. And the one that is in the Britannia rewrite I particularly like because it works very well for moving characters, not non-player characters, but actual characters through at various points in their lives. And I think that is a dynamic which is really fascinating. I mean, obviously in D&D you could scale it potentially, in other gaming systems you could scale it potentially. But the idea of running a campaign of a character at 2 points of their lives, I'm just going to put it out there. No doubt now I say it in the ether. There are going to be 15 game systems that just... And I would be wonderfully amazed. I would be happily impressed if the intellectual gaming establishment kind of came to this realization curiously at the same time I do. I need to also send a shout out to Derek Stutzman, who sent me a book of his friends who... No, it wasn't Derek at all. Welcome to my COVID-19 mind. It was Connor Seitz-Bowen. So Derek Stutzman, who appeared on the last podcast, I think the last formal recording anyway, talking about the D&D campaign, mentioned that he was friends with people that wrote for White Wolf. And then this book arrived, and the person who wrote the book was a White Wolf person, so I thought immediately, it's Derek Stutzman's friend. No, it was actually Connor Seitz-Bowen. And I did it through an email search, actually, because Connor has emailed the gentleman who wrote the book as well. So that being said, my wife has actually flipped through this book more than I have, probably because I was reading a book that I've now lost. But I don't know, I think I'll talk about it, because, I mean, it's an interesting concept, and it's talking about characters from level 12 to 16 in Dungeons & Dragons, which is certainly, as previously narrated, a very interesting time frame for characters. So 15mm World War II. Stay tuned. Somewhere in the long list of projects, this thing will come up. But the beauty of having it in confined little multi-cases, KR multi-cases, small ones, not even the big ones, just little ones, maybe, 4 inches by 6 inches by maybe 10 inches on a good day. Small cases, not big. That in and of itself is wonderful. And of course I've got so many of those small radio-controlled tank things that the Germans used. Apparently, I mean, look, I've had no written source, and I have plenty of written sources about them, but I have no written source that said that they did anything through the war. But I think they're a favourite of kind of engineering model builders to include in their tank platoons, their engineering platoon. So I think I have 4 of them. This might be like there's a high correlation of Flames of War, World War II German armies that are sold on eBay having these radio-controlled tanks, little radio-controlled tank things in them. Anyway. But yeah, certainly the distressed armies of eBay, dangerous territory. I did cap the amount that I was going to spend on this, and, well, bocage and, rock walls and these kind of things, that blew my budget a little bit. So I've purchased some of those as well. But you can't do World War II without that stuff, unless, I guess, you're doing, Eastern Front or alternatively Pacific. Who does this? Anyway. So that is 15mm World War II in a rambling nutshell. The second thing I wanted to talk about is the lead pile. Now, I have about 200 miniatures, winding their way from the East Coast to me currently on a FedEx truck. This was probably about a year and a half's worth of commissions that have been broken up and put into World War II only. It's probably the single largest number of commissioned miniatures that I have coming back to me. And like I say, this has been a long, tortured, two painters, many months legacy. In part reflecting the way that I used to just buy World War II Rangers when they were cheap. So there's a good number of Black Tree design figures. I should really narrate Black Tree design at some stage. Anyway, I'll come back to that. But yeah, there are a good number of Black Tree design figures, a good number of standard bolt action. No Empress. I've got some Empress that I'll send off for my last commission. But yeah, basically just a bunch of ragtag World War II miniatures that I'd picked up at various times and points over probably a 2-year period that I then parceled up and sent off. And I want to say 18 months later, it's roughly 18 months later, they're making their way back to me painted. So I think I'm going to set up my little dolly thing and my video camera, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do it in my podcasting room. Probably will. The podcasting room is still really a bomb site. But yeah, I'll set that up. I'll do a reboxing where I take them out of their cases and put them on the little things and then, pack them away again. But the lead pile, I've gone through this epistemic change in my thinking. It's hard to have an epistemic change that isn't in your thinking, but anyway, I've had one of these things. With the perspective that I really need to get my lead pile done by the end of the year. And this is a time limit that I've set myself in part because I just have too much metal around me. So I found a fellow, actually the fellow who I purchased the Chaos Army from and also the Undead Army, is now painting my Chaos and 40k miniatures. You'd ask yourself, Tom, how many miniatures would be there? Well, this is where it gets kind of disturbing. I've sent him, he's unwrapped, I think, 2 parcels worth. And I've got another 3 or 4 parcels to send him. He's based in Hull in the UK, in Greater Yorkshire, actually. To sigh, to think of the UK as a place that one day I may return to. But let us continue. So anyway, I am keeping him gainfully employed through this current crisis, painting a bunch of these miniatures. I still have a small selection, as I noted. When I say a small selection, it's actually in the order of about, it's got to be near, let's say 180 figures of World War II. Most of them are Empress or, what was it called? Oh, there was a miniature maker in Stockport in Manchester. Offensive miniatures. They're beautiful miniatures. Anyway, so it's either Empress or Offensive miniatures in these two small selections. I think most of them are Americans, and there's some Wehrmacht and some Waffen-SS. So they are the last paint job that we sent back to the East Coast to be done at some stage. Actually, that's not true. There's the Americans. I've got to divide that into two for the gentlemen. So miniatures are being painted, let us just put it this way. But the removal of the central group of fantasy, and literally when I've gone, just every blister I find, busting open, wrapping in bubble wrap, putting in one of these caravan boxes going up, with the view that this is the only way to actually deal with the lead pile. The way I've dealt with it up until now just hasn't done, I mean, it's made small dents, but it just hasn't addressed the nature of it. And it's not just the space. I mean, blisters take up space. It's also the fact that I just want this part of my life to be concluded in some real way. Like, I have basically enough Rangers to fight any conflict that I would want to in the 20th century. And yeah, it's very, very curious to now have these all. Then I guess the archiving portion comes in. But yes, my wife and I sit together in her quilting room, which is now, she gave me a desk, a very well-defined 6 foot by 3 foot desk, which is now my room, basically. My podcasting room, thankfully, no longer growing any chilies or herbs or microgreens or anything like that. Thankfully, all of that is outside. So that part of that room is gone. But yes, now I'm just working through the remnants of the attic, really resorting the Titanic. I did get rid of all my white dwarfs that I wasn't interested in, almost all of them, to a gentleman in Fremont. And he is painting some original box Space Hawks for me for doing this particular thing, which is very kind of him. So, yeah. The lead pile has been attacked at the centre and a little bit on the fringes, with the view that hopefully this thing will be finished by the end of the year. And really, I would like my perspective to be more associated with creating things than employing people in a pipeline. But the logistics associated just with doing this thing have become quite overwhelming and time-consuming, and unnecessarily so. Although I'm starting to wonder if my mind finds problems of a quality of the current circumstance. And I think increasingly eliminating certain aspects of this thing forces me into doing things like recording podcasts, for example. But also so much software, so much writing, so little time. It would be wonderful if the current situation would facilitate more free time. That just unfortunately has not been the case to date. So for now, I think this is a reasonable update of the two things that I wanted to talk a little bit about. 15mm and the lead pile. And I will hopefully talk about rules creation and other things in an upcoming podcast. Let us live in hope. Tom Bubley in San Jose, signing out.